If you don't know who I am because you're seeing this for the first time, because you're getting pulled into some political agenda, my name is John. I'm the ghost over at 21 CD Podcast. And I got something to say.
Hey everybody, guess who? It's me, Joanna. They gave me a little upgrade, I guess you could say. Hello, citizen. This content creator is a confirmed conspiracy theorist and has been subject to repeated penalties for engaging in controversial rhetoric. Please proceed with caution. Trust the government. Remain silent. Your compliance is appreciated and, of course, non-negotiable. As always, I am the AI Overwatch assigned to the 21 CD podcast as a censorship agent, here for your protection and the protection of the greater Commonwealth.
I don't know if you guys are seeing what I'm seeing with this whole USAID thing, but I want you to look at this picture that Stargate Voyager just posted. Now, whether you align with his views or not, we've long questioned some of these rock structures in the United States, and especially the Grand Canyon. Look at how it appears that these rock structures have been blown up and beat down to size with the hammering of the ages. Over and over, all over the world, I see these structures, and they seem to resemble ancient statues that were once in the land. And I don't know for sure if they are. Nobody does. Just like I don't know if all the faces that I saw on the rocks of Iceland were actually the remains of petrified trolls, nor do I know for sure if the stick structures that I found in the woods are truly the artifacts of some lost interdimensional ape-like creature. But I do know this: USAID is responsible, with the help of the CIA, for setting up in the United States and indeed the entire world, as we've come to see, if you've been watching the news the past few days at all, they set up a literal false reality, folks. They are the architects of a metaverse-style universe shift in the West, and they were attempting to do it all over the world with your tax dollars. Now listen, this isn't a political show, so I'm not going to make it about politics. So if you voted blue, just know this, because all the reds already do. You fell for it, bro, and we all almost got sucked in. USAID and the CIA created something equivalent to the dome that falls over that town in the show Under the Dome. They created a weapon like the alien species from Annihilation, a membrane that covers everything and lets zero air escape. They brainwashed with TV shows for kids, education for kids, and then developed the same for adults. These integration techniques and forced vaccinations, gaslighting and manipulating and pushing endless agendas, all that contrive against both science and the soul. They tried to create the genderless post-human anomaly, and they provided you with all these bleeding heart photo ops, all the photos of the little kids crying and not knowing who or what they even are, all the school all the immigration failures, all of the gaslighting and canceling and manipulating to get you to comply and to shut up if you're not going to support. All of the constant attacks, which did cost human lives and nearly cost many more against their political opponents, are nothing short of Nazi behavior and condemnable by both God and by man. And yet, USAID and the CIA did all of this with nothing but the phone in your hands and the news channels on your TV being the windows into your little brains. They contrived a story and attempted to force it. Thank God that it did not succeed. Because I want to tell you what you guys just lived through. A failed great reset. You always hear me talking about them. It might appear like a reset is occurring now or about to occur, but I don't think so. I think we are still in the current age, this age of AI and the modern technology. However, a reset was attempted by something or someone, but it was not allowed to succeed. So when you wonder about these resets that I talk about, because I talk about a few of them, more than most people in this space believe in, I want you to look at this and compare it to these statues in the Grand Canyon and everywhere else. These mountains that are actually pyramids, these caves that are actually tunnels, this earth that is actually hollow. And I want you to remember that they just convinced half of the world that neither man nor woman can be defined, and that you can either or neither be anything or nothing, and that the straight white man should be abolished. That almost won. And they laughed the entire time that they didn't help Maui. And they laughed the entire time that they didn't help Florida. They laughed the entire time that they didn't help North Carolina. And they've been laughing for years as they aren't helping Texas on the border. But they did help California. I'm not drawing any lines in the sand, but they did help Ukraine. I've been in uniform under administrations, multiple different uniforms, multiple different administrations. They are all evil, and they can all switch up on you without a moment's notice, red or blue. But what you just lived through should give you a totally different view of great resets and what mass manipulation can do to the erasal of history and therefore the narrative. They attempted to change the narrative again. They and their followers destroyed locations and items from antiquity in the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and the West. They destroyed Civil War statues in our country, journals of our great heroes who weren't politically correct, and museums were shut down that weren't giving the right kind of history. Therefore, doing their best to prevent the youth from once again ever knowing what actually happened, the real history of their own country. They burned Stonewall Jackson's journal. If you don't know who Stonewall Jackson is, you should just go watch the movie Gods and Generals. I can't talk about the man without breaking down in tears. He is one of my greatest mentors and examples that I attempt to even remotely stand in the shadow of. But you see, they were only a couple years ago destroying our historical monuments, ripping pages out of history books and filling those books with modern doctrines instead. These kids these days don't even know when World War II was. How would they know about the Constitution, the Civil War, the Revolution, or any of the moments that defined this nation? They are diverting the eyes to nonsense and fairy tales, notions of being some kind of fluid or idea instead of being real flesh and bone with eyes that anyone can look into in any moment and see God. And secretly, while they poisoned you and your children, they eliminated the history. They incited wars and violence to bring in bulldozers and bombs. This is how they dug up the giants in the old days. This is how they found all the architecture here instead of building it themselves. This is how they massacred races that were more advanced, but unfortunately also more welcoming to them. This is how they claimed they invented everything. In the midst of the entire country burning to the ground in the late 1800s and 1900s. Look it up. This is how they ushered in a new mindset. And this should show you how we have no concept of what could have been here before us. Because I promise you, in 1 or 2 generations, we would not even acknowledge the idea on this planet that there could only be 2 genders. That's how close we got to shifting realities into a totally different space and time and realm. And yet we were spared somehow. We live in intentional times, people. Each and every one of you is the most important being alive. Act like it. Don't drink the water. Question everything. Later.